Welcome back to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast. I've been reading a lot about tech skill shortages at the moment and the traditional approach to recruitment, which often meant only looking at people with the right degree or the right experience. But at the same time, with this tech skill shortage, I think we should be investing in our time in giving everybody a chance from a variety of backgrounds, bringing them into the tech industry because of the transferable skills that they've got and because they might be passionate about the industry and just wanting a chance to get on. And I also think it's never been easier to widen that talent pool. And that is what I want to talk about today, because Ilya Brotzky, founder and CEO of VanHack, is a fast-growing recruitment platform helping thousands of companies hire the best talent quickly. And they do this because they've got more than 430,000 developers from over 199 countries. And those people are ready to relocate or work remotely. And as a result, they've got the largest diverse workforce of tech professionals on their hands. But he also has an inspirational backstory that has taken him from Siberia, Vancouver, Rio, and beyond. So buckle up and hold on tight, because I'm going to beam your ears all the way to Vancouver in Canada, where we're going to talk about the current massive shortage of software developers and other tech talents and how companies can attract and retain their top professionals from around the world, and also explore the bigger impact of changes happening in the workspace and recruitment industry right now, and how remote hiring can actually help tech companies build that more diverse workplace. So buckle up and hold on tight, because no matter where you're listening in the world, it's time for me to beam your ears all the way to Vancouver, Canada, to speak with Ilya Brotzky. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Of course. Thanks for having me, Neil. So my name is Ilya Brotzky. I'm the co-founder and CEO of VanHack. We are a recruiting company focused on helping tech talent relocate or get hired abroad. We've helped almost 2,000 people get hired in the last 2 years, and always working to fill more tech positions.
And we have a bit of a tradition on the podcast. I always like to start by taking my guests back in time. So can you remember where your passion for tech came from, or the moment that would put you on this path today? So, and the reason I asked that is because I read your journey has taken you everywhere from Siberia to Vancouver and even Rio. So can you share your origin story with me?
Yeah, you did your homework. Very cool. Well, I guess there's kind of two parts. The first is really when I was young. I immigrated twice before I was 5 years old, from back to Siberia, Soviet Union, to Israel, to Vancouver. So I've kind of always had this immigrant mindset. Actually, the first memory of my life was getting on a plane and leaving the country I was born in. And so that's kind of been one thing. And then after university, I also got another international job where I did go to Brazil, as you mentioned, to Rio. And I was working for a mining company there for about a year and a half, and decided that I really didn't like mining, but I actually really, really liked Brazil. So I left my job and went to work for a nonprofit in the slums of Rio de Janeiro as a volunteer, actually, just to try and do some sales and help them out. And from that, got connected to a few other folks who were starting a startup accelerator in Rio back in 2012, or I guess over 10 years ago now. And that's where I met a lot of tech professionals who were really good at coding, but not so good at English or soft skills, and were asking me questions about how to get hired abroad and relocate. And kind of that's where the kernel for VanHack came from. But yeah, I remember, joining that startup accelerator and really falling in love with like the tech ecosystem. Coming from mining, it was very bland and for me at least, I think, as I grew up, it's definitely gotten more interesting in all the different processes and stuff. But back then I was working for a company with 100,000 people, and it was very kind of corporate-y, let's say that way. And then going to a startup where there's 2 or 3 people and you're trying to, create something from nothing. That was a lot more exciting for me. So yeah, that's kind of where it all started.
Love it. And of course, that path would lead you to VanHack. And for people who are just hearing about VanHack for the first time, you just tell me a little bit about the work you're doing there.
Yeah, so we believe that there's great talent all over the world, and opportunities should be defined by borders and geography. And so we've been working on that since 2015, I guess, pre-COVID, when now it's obviously a little bit more mainstream. But back in 2015, we started working on helping people. Originally was just developers, software engineers from Brazil relocating to one city, which is Vancouver. And so we thought it'd be Vancouver for hackers. And now we've kind of changed the name, and it's a van that delivers hackers or delivers talent. And today we work with talent from over 200 countries and help them get hired all over Europe and North America and other parts of the world as well. So we want to be the kind of default way for talent to get hired abroad.
And just to set the scene for today's conversation, there is a well-documented massive shortage of software developers and other tech skills out there at the moment. And just as I said, just to set the scene, can you tell me more about the scale of this problem from what you're seeing?
Yeah, there's all these studies out there, and I think no one actually really knows. But the latest one I saw was Morgan Stanley said that there's going to be a shortage of about 8 million tech professionals globally by 2030. There's a bunch of other McKinsey studies and Department of Labor. But basically, there's just a lot of tech talent missing in the world because think about it, there not that many people learned how to code 5, 10, 15 years ago. It wasn't that cool or such a in-demand thing back then. But technology has permeated all facets of our lives, and every company has become a tech company. So every company needs to have a really good website, a really good apps, a really good innovation department. So there's just a huge shortage, and especially this is felt in countries like the UK, US, Canada, Germany, the Netherlands, countries where there's not that many people or who have learned this skill and big economies. So we see that as a big opportunity to help people who are wanting to immigrate and find better lives for themselves to join those kind of countries and companies in those countries.
And I'm curious, what do you think the bigger impact of changes happening in the workspace and recruitment industry are right now? Because you must be talking to people all over the world, but what particular changes or trends are you seeing right now?
Well, the biggest trend right now today is that things are slower, right? Like there's the layoffs and a big kind of white collar recession, as people are calling it, or new collar recession. And so it's definitely been a challenging time compared to maybe this time last year. Things are going through a little bit of a correction with interest rates and inflation and all that. So that's really the biggest trend and kind of what everyone's talking about. Outside of that, I think the work from anywhere trend is really become a permanent, maybe not even a trend, but like just a fact of life, where of course a lot of companies or some companies do want people to go back to the office and that people can make that decision. But a lot of people have realized that they can be digital nomads, they can work from anywhere that they choose to, as long as they have a good internet connection. And also companies are realizing that, hey, they're just because this person isn't in my city, we're still on Zoom and Slack and Jira and all those tools all day anyway. So might as well hire them and get some great talent on our team. So that's been really big. And then the last one I'll say is companies are looking for more diverse workforce. Before, it was really not that big of a deal if you have all people from one kind of country or one gender, or everyone went to the same university or whatever. That wasn't talked about too much, but now people are seeing that there's a huge value in having all these different perspectives and life experiences in a company, and putting a lot of emphasis on building teams that are much more inclusive and diverse.
And it's changing at such a rapid rate, and there's this war for tech talent all around the world. So from what you're saying, how do you think companies could better attract and retain top tech professionals who are located from around the world? Because there's so much to be thankful for, really, because they're no longer restricted to the immediate geographic location. They now have an entire global talent pool. But what should they be doing differently?
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely a positive, and also it's definitely it could be seen as a threat and opportunity, right? Because all of a sudden, American companies who have big budgets can now go and hire in the UK, for example, or whatever country you're in. So you have to really, see both sides of the coin and kind of play offense and defense at the same time. I think the biggest thing that companies can do is just realize that there's really not that big of a difference between talent in your home country and talent abroad. I think that there's a lot of unconscious and maybe even conscious bias that happens. That whole, we've outsourced to India before and it was a bad experience. I've heard that many times, just to use an example. That's a pretty popular one, or another country, not just India. But I think, we have this saying at VanHack is, code has no accent. And if you can speak JavaScript, you can speak JavaScript no matter what. Right? So I think that's like the first thing that people need to do and realize. And the second thing I think is speed. A lot of companies are really slow at hiring, and that's the biggest problem I see over and over again. Companies say we need to fill this role, ASAP, but then they take 2 weeks to make a job offer, or a long time to book an interview, or get back to the candidate, or whatever that might be. So I think that's really a big challenge that companies face, because they have a business to run, they have things to do, customers, problems to solve, etc. And recruiting gets a little bit pushed to the side. So I think especially if you're an early stage company, hiring HR professional or talent acquisition professional, if you're really serious about recruiting early, I think makes a lot of sense, and something I recommend.
Well, another topic rising to the top of the agenda, of course, is increasing diversity, equity, and inclusion. So on that side of things, how can remote hiring better help tech companies build that more diverse workplace and that diversity of thought required to succeed in companies now?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like think of it like you're fishing, right? Or maybe better say a sports analogy. Are you a football fan, Neil?
Well, I am. I say that I'm a Derby County fan, so there's an argument there that I'm a fan of soccer or just torture. But yes, I am.
Right. Okay. So let's choose Manchester City. I think they're doing really well these days, right? So they have a player on their team from Norway, I believe. Is that right?
Yeah, unstoppable Haaland. Yeah.
Exactly. So imagine if that player was not able to play for Manchester City because Manchester City only wanted to hire, quote unquote, hire or have team members from Manchester or just from the UK, right? Yeah. They'd be missing out on their best player by far. And I'm sure there's some other nationalities on those teams as well, right? So I think that's really the way you should look at it. If you want to build the best team, you have to look everywhere for that talent. That's why Man City is such a great team with Holland and any other team that has someone who's not English in the Premier League, and you can use that analogy for whatever league you want. And I think that's really a good way to look at it.
And I was doing a bit of research on you guys before you came on the podcast today, and I quickly learned you've got a network of more than 350,000 developers in 120 countries who are ready to relocate or work remotely, and you've got the largest diverse workforce of tech professionals out there. So I'm curious, though, to bring all that to life, do you have any case studies or use cases that you can share of how you're helping businesses and delivering that value that they're looking for?
Yeah, so those numbers actually are a little bit outdated. It's over 430,000 candidates, wow. 199 countries. So a very, very large and growing talent pool. I think we have tons of case studies. I guess the biggest one is a company called Skip the Dishes, which is the Canadian branch of Just Eat Takeaway. Yeah. Which I believe is a UK company that merged with a Dutch company, and it's the largest, one of the largest food delivery networks in the world. They hired 120 people from us, and this was at a time when they just had gotten acquired, and were dealing with a problem of too much traffic on Friday and Saturday nights. Everyone was ordering food on Friday and Saturday nights, and their network was getting overloaded. And if they crashed, that would mean hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars in lost revenue, because all of a sudden people aren't going to be ordering food on Skip the Dishes. They're going to be going over to a competitor because they weren't ordering, and then all the different restaurants are having problems, and all the couriers, et cetera, et cetera. So it could be a really big problem if they're down for a while. So they came to us and said, hey, we're looking to hire as many developers as you can find. What can we do to make that happen? And we actually flew them down to Sao Paulo in Brazil for a recruiting fair that took place over 2 days, and they hired 72 people in those 2 days. It was we did a hackathon, rented out a hotel. It was a really big event. So that probably is our best success case. And then we have many other companies that we've worked with that hired 5, 10, 15 people and helped them build teams. And our customers have raised probably hundreds of millions of dollars collectively. Actually, definitely more than probably even over $1 billion collectively in funding. Of course, not just because of us, but we help them build a great product, and that in turn helps them grow their company and then of course become successful.
And outside all of this, you've also done some incredible work by raising, I think, something like $100,000 for a variety of charities across Africa and South America. Can you tell me more about this charity work and why that's important to you guys too?
Yeah, that's actually something I did in college. Before I started VanHack.
Yeah.
So when I was in university, I went to school in upstate New York at Cornell, which is a kind of how do you say, small, cold place, but very beautiful, and also very international university. And they had this program where if you volunteer and work on campus, you can get funding to go and do international volunteering trips. And in my senior year of university, I actually decided to do a climb of Mount Kilimanjaro to fundraise for a charity called Operation Fistula, which was founded by another Cornellian. And he kind of helped guide us because he had done a climb similar to that before. And so we created a group called Mountains for Moms that then went to expanded to different colleges. We were in Dartmouth as well as Northwestern, and had other schools do the same thing. And collectively, we all raised around $100,000. And this all went to help provide surgeries for women who had obstetric fistula, which is a condition that happens during child labor if a woman is too young or malnutrition to give birth, and she becomes incontinent, so she can't control her bowels, and then usually gets excommunicated, and it's a pretty terrible thing that happens. And it's a really kind of good ROI between the number of dollars, which is around $250 for the surgery, and the impact on someone's life, which is basically they become a functioning human being in society again. And so that was really I guess challenging but fun project, because basically went from scratch to recruiting the team and fundraising the money and everything in about 3 months, from August to December or January. Actually, it's funny. We did the climb. I think today would have been the first day, 2010. So 13 years ago, and then we summited the mountain on January 16th. So it's around this time of the year that we did the climb, which is funny. But it was a good experience, and quite a while ago now, 13 years ago.
Incredibly cool, man. And fast forward to 2023, what's going to be your big focus this year? Is there anything you can share about what you're going to be concentrating on?
I think two things. One thing I really want to focus on is expanding VanHack outside of just tech. We recently had some immigration legislation change here in Canada that allows professionals in other engineering fields, such as mining or aerospace, civil engineering, mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, to come to Canada under the same kind of fast track visa that we have for software developers. So I believe this could be a very large new market for us as a company, and really diversify our focus outside of just one industry, which will help bring some more stability and balance to the company, as well as grow our revenue and our kind of addressable market. So that's number one. Number two is focusing on the US. So we really don't have a huge presence in the US yet, and I really want to change that to make VanHack kind of a household name in the US tech industry, so people know that we're an option for them to use to hire internationally. Just it's a huge market, and we're not really active in it yet. And third is really focusing on our technology. We want to be kind of we have created a lot of really great technology, but I really want to take that to the next level and make it so, if someone's looking for a developer on VanHack, they can sign up and get a really great candidate within a few minutes. And everything, all the matching and tech takes care of the recruiting part of things. And we can make, finding a developer as easy as booking an Uber. I think that'd be really cool.
Oh, incredibly cool. Now, we started the podcast today talking about your origin story, and as we come full circle, I'm going to ask you to leave us with one other thing, and that is, what has been the soundtrack to your career? Is there a particular song that means anything to you that we can add to our Spotify playlist, or a book that meant something to you that we can add to an Amazon wishlist? The choice is yours. All I ask is, what are you leaving us with and why?
For sure. So the book that I would recommend is How I Raised Myself from Failure to Success in Selling, by Frank Bettinger. It's written kind of in an old school way, I think in the 1930s, by an American insurance salesman. But he has some really great timeless rules about how to be a strong salesperson. And I read that when I was young, and it's really made a big impact on me. And from time to time, I go back and reread it. I bring that one up because it's different than kind of the other ones that are a little bit more mainstream that people might know about. So that's a great book, and I highly recommend it.
Awesome. I'll get that straight added to our Amazon wish list. And for anyone listening, just wants to find out more information about VanHack, the work that you're doing, maybe they may even want to work with you or contact your team, what's the best starting point for everything?
Yeah, VanHack.com, vanhack.com, which is the best way to go, and sign up there, and we'll get you some great talent right away.
Awesome. Well, I love what you're doing here, especially with this network of these updated figures you mentioned there, 430,000 developers in so many different countries there. Was it 190 countries? Is that right?
199. So I guess one more and we'll be at 200.
There's a goal for you this year for sure. But I love what you're doing here, and all these people that are ready to relocate or work remotely. You've got this largest diverse workforce of tech professionals. But more than anything, I think it's the story behind that, your origin story, the story behind the company and the great work you're doing. So thanks for sharing that with me today.
My pleasure, Neil. This was a lot of fun.
One of the big things I'm seeing all the time is we need to think differently about recruitment and tackling tech skill shortages. The rise of the digital nomad, we're seeing this more and more. My son's currently in Cambodia. He's got a job here in the UK, but actually working in Cambodia remotely. He's still managing to work remotely now. And I think we're going to see things like this more and more, where we're no longer chained to a desk doing the 9-to-5 commute every day. But where this leads, I don't know. And I've got so many questions and concerns myself. And also, there's a lot that I'm excited about it. And I know each and every person listening to this will be thinking the same. So please, email me now, techblogwriter@outlook.com, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn @NeilC.Hughes. Let's keep this conversation going. And rather than just have any knee-jerk reaction over the pros and the cons or any kind of binary thinking around it, I'd love to have a discussion with everyone. What works for you? What doesn't work for you? How can we get around this? And if you used VanHack for your work, I'd love to hear how that's working out and what opportunities it's enabled you to unlock. So as always, send me an email, techblogwriter@outlook.com, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram @NeilC.Hughes. And we've also got another topic lined up for you tomorrow, so hopefully you'll join me for that. But a big thank you for listening as always. I know you have a lot of choice out there to listen to, so you just popping by each means the world to me. So thanks for listening, and until next time, don't be a stranger.